Let's dive right in, because if you're a Chiefs fan like me, you've got to be asking yourself the same question I've been thinking all week. What's going on with this defensive line? Heading into every NFL season, you feel pretty confident, right? The Chiefs have a stacked roster. You've got Mahomes, Kelsey, a top-tier secondary, and you assume the front four will hold up. But if you've been watching, it's been a rough start when it comes to generating pressure on the quarterback. Outside of George Karlaftis, who flashes here and there, the interior hasn't been doing much. Chris Jones is carrying an enormous load, and while he's risen to the occasion at times, it's just not enough. And then there's Derek Naughton. Let's be honest, he's 124th out of 124 defensive tackles according to PFF. That's the guy we traded a draft asset for. Meanwhile, Mike Pennell, who was quietly one of the best run stuffers on the team, is out the door. And that's the kind of personnel decision that leaves a gaping hole in the middle of your line. The Chiefs tried to play the roster game with Pennell, hoping to manipulate service time like a Major League Baseball team, thinking maybe they could stash him on the practice squad while still getting his snaps in. But it backfired. He felt disrespected, went on to the Bengals, and now you're staring at a defensive line that just isn't holding up. Add Jerry Tillery, Omar, and some of the younger pieces who haven't stepped up, and you've got a real depth problem. This isn't just about one player. It's about the rotation, the scheme, and the fact that you can't keep leaning on Chris Jones for every single snap. This is why the trade deadline chatter is heating up. Reports from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler and Diana Rini are clear. The Chiefs are actively looking to add a defensive lineman, and you can understand why. If you're serious about winning now, if you're serious about making another Super Bowl run with Mahomes, you have to plug this hole before it costs you in the playoffs. So here's my question to you. Do you think the defensive line is the biggest issue for the Chiefs right now? Type yes or no in the comments. And while you're at it, hit that like button if you agree. And if you want to stay up to date on every trade rumor, every roster move, and every step the Chiefs take before the deadline, go ahead and subscribe and help us hit 6,000 subscribers. I promise we've got plenty of inside perspective coming your way. Early on, it may feel like a mess, but that's exactly what makes this trade deadline so critical. Every move matters, and even a day 3 pick trade could immediately improve the line. Imagine getting a veteran like Mike Pennell back, or adding someone who can rotate with Chris Jones without giving up too much. It could completely change how the defense functions. And that's the lens we need to look through as we start breaking down the roster and the potential trade targets, what they mean for the line, what they mean for Mahomes, and how this all fits into the Chiefs' bigger picture. So, as we jump in deeper, keep in mind, this isn't just speculation, it's urgency. The window is open now, and Brett Veach knows it. Before we move on, type Pennell in the comments if you want him back on this roster. Let's see if the fan base agrees that bringing back a proven interior presence is the move that could make the Chiefs unstoppable down the stretch. Now that we've laid out the defensive line problem, let's talk about how the Chiefs actually got here, because understanding the personnel moves is key to seeing the urgency. It all starts with Mike Pennell. This guy has quietly been one of the best run-stuffing defensive tackles the team has had outside of Chris Jones, yet the Chiefs tried to play a roster game with him. They thought maybe they could manipulate his service time, stash him on the practice squad, elevate him for games when needed, and still get his snaps. But it didn't work. He felt disrespected, left for the Bengals, and now we're missing his presence inside. Then there's Derek Naughton, who was brought in at the cost of a draft asset, and the results have been underwhelming at best. The stats don't lie. 124th out of 124 defensive tackles according to PFF. He hasn't provided the interior push or the pass rush that was needed, and while he's new to the system, the Chiefs are in a win-now mode. There's no room for growing pains. Add in Jerry Tillery and Omar, who've struggled to make a real impact, and you realize the depth just isn't there. Chris Jones has had to shoulder far more than his share of snaps, and it's taking a toll. The decision-making here goes beyond just stats. It affects the locker room, the rotations, and the confidence of the unit. The younger guys see the veterans being mishandled, and that can't help morale. And it's not just internal. The defensive coordinators have to adjust schemes to account for a weaker line, which spreads the defense thin in coverage and against the run. All of this comes from personnel moves that, on paper, might have looked smart, trying to save cap space, managing roster spots, but in reality, it left a massive hole at the core of the defense. And the consequence? Now we're staring down a trade deadline where the Chiefs need to act fast. They need to bring in a veteran presence who can rotate, who can pressure the quarterback, and who can stop the run without overworking Chris Jones. It's a lesson in balancing long-term roster strategy with the immediate needs of a championship window. And fans, here's where I want you to weigh in. Which roster move frustrated you the most this year? Pennell leaving, the Derek Naughton trade, or the Chiefs not adding a veteran earlier? Drop your answer in the comments. I'll be checking and pinning some of the best takes. While you're at it, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time. Hitting that 6,000 subscriber mark will let us bring even more in-depth trade coverage, analysis, and inside information straight to you, so you don't miss a single Chiefs move. Understanding these personnel moves isn't just about pointing fingers. It's about seeing the big picture. It's about realizing that a single trade, a single addition, could completely flip the script for the defense. And that's exactly the conversation we need to have next. Which defensive linemen make sense, what they bring to the table, and how much the Chiefs should be willing to invest to fix this hole before it's too late. All right. Now that we understand the problem and how the Chiefs ended up here, it's time to talk solutions. Specifically, who the Chiefs should be targeting before the trade deadline. First off, let's keep it realistic. The Chiefs have just over $4 million in cap space, so we're not talking about signing a huge free agent or giving up a first-rounder. We're talking strategic additions that can make an immediate impact. One name that keeps coming up is Calais Campbell, a veteran who's still productive, especially against the run, and doesn't come with a hefty price tag. He'd be an immediate upgrade along the defensive line, and for a day 3 pick, you're getting someone who can step in and make a difference from snap 1. Then you've got other options like Colin Saunders, someone with experience and reliability who can at least stabilize the rotation inside, even if he's not a superstar. And there's always the bigger names, floating around like Jermaine Johnson from the Jets or Jalen Phillips from Miami, but those guys are pricier. It's all about weighing cost versus immediate impact. And don't forget, there are still other creative options, like Matthew Judon, who was a healthy scratch recently. You might be able to get a guy like that on a bargain if a team is ready to move him. What the Chiefs need is someone who can take pressure off Chris Jones and rotate in without losing a beat. Whether it's a run stuffer or a pass rusher, they need depth and reliability. Right now, the interior is essentially a turnstile if it's not Chris Jones doing the heavy lifting, and with him over 30, there's no way he can carry that load all season. Even a veteran who isn't flashy can completely change how the line functions, how the linebackers play, and how the secondary can focus on coverage without worrying about quarterbacks getting out too quickly. And here's a poll for you. If you had to pick one, would you prefer the Chiefs go after a run defender, someone who can stuff the middle like Pennell, or a pure pass rusher to help with pressure? Type your pick in the comments. I want to see what the fan base thinks. While you're at it, hit that like button if you agree that adding anyone right now is an upgrade. The beauty of the trade deadline is that it allows you to be creative and aggressive without mortgaging the future too much, and the Chiefs have shown they can make moves like this in the past. Think, Carlos Dunlap, Terrell Suggs, or Melvin Ingram. Adding a veteran presence now could stabilize the defensive line rotation and give the coaching staff more flexibility with schemes. That's the key takeaway. It's not just about stats or accolades, it's about fit, depth, and immediate production. And remember, with Kelsey, Jawan Taylor, and Christian Fulton potentially coming off the books next year, the window to win now is even narrower. Every move counts, and the right defensive lineman can literally shift the balance of the team from good to Super Bowl contender. So as you think about who you'd like to see the Chiefs bring in, remember it's not just about a name, it's about impact. And the reality is, almost anyone you add at this point will be an upgrade. Let me know your pick in the comments, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next breakdown. We'll analyze every potential move and who the Chiefs could realistically bring in before the deadline closes. Now that we've covered the problem and potential solutions, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. What any trade deadline move says about the Chiefs' championship window. The reality is simple. This is a win-now team. Patrick Mahomes is in his prime, Travis Kelce is still elite, but the clock is ticking on some of the other big pieces. Kelce, Jawan Taylor, and Christian Fulton could all be off the books next season, which makes this year even more critical. If the Chiefs don't make the right moves now, they risk leaving a glaring hole in their defense that could derail a Super Bowl run. That's why adding a veteran defensive lineman isn't just a smart play, it's an urgent one. It tells the league that Brett Veach is willing to swing, willing to invest draft capital or cap space, and that he understands the urgency of the situation. And here's the thing, even a modest addition can be huge. Someone like Calais Campbell or a veteran like Colin Saunders might not be a household name, but they bring experience, depth, and immediate production. That's exactly what this line needs. And don't overlook the ripple effects. Adding a dependable interior presence takes pressure off Chris Jones, allows linebackers to flow to the ball, and helps the secondary stay focused on coverage. Every small improvement compounds, and in a playoff scenario, it can be the difference between an early exit and a Super Bowl appearance. Now, let's be honest. The Chiefs might also explore running back additions like Bree Hall, but the overwhelming consensus is defensive line first. Depth is critical, and right now, the rotation is thin. Look at what happened when Omar Norman Lott went down. They didn't even call up a defensive lineman from the practice squad. That's telling. So, any trade, any addition, even a minor one, can have a major impact. And that's where you come in, fan to fan. I want to hear your thoughts. Should Brett Veach swing big at the deadline to fix this line, even if it costs a draft pick or stretches the cap a bit? Type yes or no in the comments, and let's see how many of us agree that immediate action is the right move. And while you're at it, hit that like button if you agree the defensive line has to be addressed, and make sure you subscribe. We're aiming for 6,000 subscribers, and the more of you on board, the faster we can break down every trade rumor, every roster tweak, and keep you up to date on all things Chiefs. The takeaway here is clear. The Chiefs' window is right now. Every move this season matters, every decision can shift the trajectory, and adding a veteran defensive lineman is not just an upgrade, it's a statement. It signals that the front office understands the urgency, that they're willing to act, and that they're committed to giving Mahomes the best chance to deliver another championship. So keep your eyes on the trade deadline, keep the comments coming, and remember, this team isn't just playing for today, they're playing for legacy. And one smart move could very well define this season.